Welcome to the Authentic Change Podcast. I'm Mike Horne, your host, and this podcast is for leaders and coaches who need and want fresh perspectives on what it means to live and to lead authentically. You're a leader who wants to make a difference, but sometimes you feel stuck. You know there's more to life and to leadership than what you're currently experiencing. It can be tough to figure out how to grow as a leader. You might be reading all the blogs and books, but it still feels like you're not making progress. You might even be feeling like you're doing everything wrong. On Authentic Change with Mike Horne, we interview experts who share their insights on how to live and lead authentically. Our guests are trendsetters in building great leaders, teams, and organizations. We provide fresh perspectives on what it means to live with purpose and authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast.
Welcome to episode 124 of Authentic Change with Mike Horne. I'm going to take the opportunity to reflect on the creation of Authentic Change with Mike Horne and its progress over 5 seasons. I have been recording the Authentic Change with Mike Horne podcast since June 22nd, 2021. So we're now about 31 months into the podcast, a weekly podcast. That gives us about 2.5 years of podcasting with Authentic Change with Mike Horne. It has been an absolute delight. And again, I want to welcome all of our new and returning listeners to Authentic Change with Mike Horne. It's my delight, my pleasure, my privilege to have you as listeners on Authentic Change with Mike Horne. So I want to go back to that time in June 2021 when the podcast was created. And the intent there was to help people and culture leaders prosper in every situation and help us to think about designing workplaces where everyone does their best. And I hope if you're a regular or a frequent or a new listener to the podcast, that you have discovered that we are helping people and culture leaders, whether you're an HR professional, a scientist, an engineer, a technologist, to prosper in every situation, to bring more of who you are to what you do. And I think about our very first episode with Alan Hunkins and cracking the leadership code, and how we reflected on what we wanted from each other in our organizations, open communication, trust, community, and fun. And as we made progress through these 5 seasons, it's been wonderful to see an expanding cadre of guests, moving from academics to practitioners, reflecting my own interest as an organization development practitioner in applied learning, in being a scholar practitioner. And as I begin to shift into some new spaces for me, as we think about the people dividend and what it means to create greatness in our organizations, it's just been a delight to have all of this to guide me on the next journey. The show essentially evolved out of my book, Integrity by Design, published around the same time, Working and Living Authentically. I think we've done so much in a few categories that it's important to make some notes about that and to speak to those issues. I think there's been a huge focus on leadership development and what it means to lead, and how we unleash our leadership potential, and how we exercise authentic leadership. So there's this giant category of leadership improvement, leadership development, which I think has a natural tie to my current work in executive and organization development. There's also a second theme that really emerges from Authentic Change with Mike Horne, and that is built around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think as you begin to move through each of our now 123 episodes, you'll see that theme as it continues throughout the podcast. So I've been absolutely delighted to work on those two themes relative to leadership, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. And around the variety of guests that we've had, whether they've been academicians, scholars, practitioners, business leaders, there's just such a wide range of material and greatness that people bring to it that I think helps to serve our overall objectives and themes. While I would be hesitant to call out each episode of the show, I'd encourage you to go into our, now 120 plus episodes and think about what are some of the highlights for you. Is it a business leader? Is it a organization development consultant or an executive development? Is it a particular author that we've featured? But for me, some of the key takeaways from each episode is around the care, the compassion, the energy that all of our guests bring to their work. I think about some of our titles: Helping People Become Who They Are with Dr. Cindy Miller, Assessing Harassment in the Workplace, How We Align with Purpose and Passion, How We Discover the Leader Within Ourselves, How We Establish Greater Communication, how we find out about what makes organizations thrive and grow, how we also think about making breakthroughs in executive careers and transitions. Episode 52, Truth, Justice, and Love with Fanchen Cox, about telling our stories, about inspiring our purpose. These are all such important things as David Taylor Klaus said in episode 55, around unearthing and unleashing our personal mastery. And one of the episodes that I truly loved, episode 64, If Gold Was Our Destiny, the story of the U.S. men's Olympic volleyball team at some point. And with Fred and Judith Katz around, Fred Miller and Judith Katz around creating inclusive and collaborative workplaces, collaboration arts with Todd Erickson. And John Sanders, great supporter of the show, thinking about building and leading teams of serious innovators. And again, so much on career tuning, on alignment, connecting, as Hortense Ligentile described in episode 79, connecting to your true self and the leader you were meant to be. Jan Fried in episode 84, talking about breadcrumb legacies. Caleb Gardner in episode 86, changing how we think about change. Episode 88 with Sharzad Narari on strategy meeting performance. Susan Collins on how to be a network concierge or not to be naive with Joshua Berry. There's so much that's ahead for all of us. Bill Brown's episode 99, recruiting, an important topic for so many in people and culture. And moving into healthcare topics as well, humanizing today's medicine with Jennifer Krippner, episode 102. A delightful episode 105 with Marty Goldberg, Out of Workplace Traps. And thinking about how we achieve with Ram Iyer in episode 108. A recent episode with neurosurgeon, writer, educator, and speaker Gary R. Simons, who, as we step into the world of neurosurgery and discover some unexpected intersection of medical challenges, personal resilience, and organizational effectiveness, right to some of our more recent episodes on with Jim Verquest on innovative business and how we move through things, and so much other good work that's ahead for all of us. So I'd really like to say thank you for all of the feedback that we've received on Authentic Change. For me, I am so proud of the feedback that we've received from many. I like how some describe Authentic Change as coaching in a box. And I noticed one other reviewer is that we really host a solid lineup of thought leaders. The questions that we've posed are well researched. We try to extract the best lessons into meaningful change. And the podcast really highlighted for many of our reviewers wisdom in the area of leadership development. And I really appreciated the comments when people say they love the show. So this is a clean show. We broadcast on most of the channels in which podcasts are available. And your feedback really helps to shape the show. So again, I'm inviting your participation, your collaboration. If you have any comments or questions about the show, I encourage you to write to me, mike@mike-horne.com, or to leave feedback directly on the site where you listen to the podcast. I want to talk a little bit about the future of authentic change as we begin to wrap it down and move into a new way of thinking about the show, the people dividend. And I'll be talking in our next episode, discussing in our next episode, some of the highlights I look for in the people dividend. And I hope that runs another 5 or 6 seasons as we move through that. I've also created a YouTube channel based on all of our work. So I'd encourage you to visit the YouTube channel for Authentic Change with Mike Horne as a way of continuing your participation and engagement. So just in terms of some conclusion, I am so grateful. I'm full of gratitude for all of our listeners, for their support, for their engagement, and the deep commitment that all of our audience and our guests have fostered on how we contribute to changing authentically, to authentic change, to building workplaces that are better for everyone. And as I begin to wrap up this episode, again, I am so delighted and grateful for all of our listeners, for you, for taking time to move forward with us, to share your excitement for the next episodes as we move into the people dividend and all that will bring, and to wish me luck as we hopefully have another 5 seasons. But again, focused a little bit differently on the people dividend. I'll be explaining in a future podcast what to expect from the people dividend. But again, I'm so thankful and grateful. Again, please feel free to reach out to me, to contact me, to suggest guests for our podcast. It's mike@mike-horne.com. You'll find it in the show notes. And again, I'm going to sign off on this episode 124 just with continuing appreciation and gratitude for your involvement in the podcast, for your suggestions to me. And I look forward as we continue to move through season 6 relative to building better workplaces, to expanding my ideas on the topics that are most important to me and to my clients, executive development, organization development, with a particular focus on scientists, engineers, and technology leaders in the world. We can do it. We can make better places. We can rise above the noise and really move towards building the capacity of our organizations and of our leaders to have everyone bring their best and in turn create organizations where people can do their best work. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm looking forward to the next episode. And again, thank you for listening to this episode 124, Authentic Change with Mike Horne, a 5-season reflection.
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast. I'm delighted that you've tuned in to listen. Please visit the show notes for links to topics discussed in today's podcast. To download a free ebook on authentic change and leadership and to subscribe to my newsletter, please visit mike-horne.com. Once again, mike-horne.com, mike-horne.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast.